It's probably going to go live before you see me pop back up, but that's okay. And then I'm going to look down at my phone because I need to make sure that I can see it.
Sure.
What's up? We are live, Paul. Paul Oster, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm surviving like everybody else, Ted.
You are a friend of Freedom's, a friend of the show. You've been on several times. Man, a lot has changed since the last time I saw you, and it wasn't that long ago, which is what the crazy part is. So let me click this live part, and we are good. For those of you who don't know Paul, I'm going to let Paul tell him just a little bit about himself and why he is the expert on this topic we're going to talk about. Welcome, my friend.
I'll make it real quick, Ted. My name is Paul Oster. I am a certified FICO Pro. I'm currently considered the nation's credit repairman, and I'm the founder and president of Better Qualified. And we've been, business and consumer credit experts for over 15 years now. And we've, really worked very well with our real estate professionals. Very, very great fit and strategic partners, just trying to help people, help the consumer and help the small business owner maximize the benefits when it comes to credit.
And the last time we were together, we were talking because COVID wasn't even in the world, or at least that we knew of. We were talking about the new FICO 10, I think.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to talk about. So I want to hit the new COVID world where we have SBA loans, what's going on with your credit, the stimulus package, unemployment. I think so many people have so many questions, yet they don't know where to go to get the answers because there's just so much misinformation out there. So I'd love you to take a deep dive, maybe start talking about how credit's being impacted, what some of the things you're seeing, and then we can hit the other topics as we go.
Sure. So hopefully FICO 10 gets kicked way down the road, because if banks started to adopt that new scoring model, it's the perfect storm, and not in a good way for consumers, because like we talked about, FICO 10 is going to put more emphasis on late payments and increased credit card balances. So as we can imagine right now, those two things are going to happen across the boards. So I'll break this down into three different areas. First, you have the CARES Act, which everyone's heard about, this stimulus check that's on the way. It is coming. Thankfully, the administration and both parties, signed this bill very, very quickly. And it's basically everybody's eligible. If you have a work eligible Social Security number, you are a citizen of the United States, you are going to get a check in the mail. Now, if you made less than $75,000 as an individual, or less than $150,000 as a joint return, you're getting $1,200. If you have a dependent that is under the age of 17, then you are going to get an additional $500 for every dependent. That's basically it. If you've made over 75,000, that number starts to come down. I think it's $5 for every $1,000 over the 75,000. You don't have to file. You don't have to do anything. Now, it's going to get based on either your 2018 or your 2019 tax returns. By the way, they extended the deadline to file tax returns to July. So if you don't care, if it's okay, maybe you didn't have a big difference between 2018 and 2019, just use your 2018 returns. If you get direct deposit from your tax returns, the stimulus check is going to be directly deposited into your account. If you get a physical check from the IRS, I will tell you that you're looking at probably 6 to 8 weeks delay in getting your check if you don't have direct deposit. Now, the IRS has said that they are going to open up a website for people that didn't have direct deposit, that you can go in there and give them the information. I haven't seen that yet, but hopefully, we see that sooner than later. So in terms of the CARES Act and the stimulus check, it's coming. Thank God it's coming.
Right.
And they've already started that process.
Let me ask you, we had some questions that came in when we posted this. 2018. So what if you have not filed your 2018, but you're ready now? and you want to file 2018, or what if you filed 2019 but haven't filed 2018? I got a bunch of those questions too.
Sure.
How does
So
that work?
either way, what I would say to everybody to make it as simple as possible and as quick. Look, if you're ready to file and it's a click of the button, then just do it. But if you're not really ready, look, there's not a lot of CPAs that are currently in the office. No one's working, right? So the easiest thing for everybody to do if you haven't filed yet is to file a simple return. You can always amend your tax returns after the fact. So just file a simple return with some estimates for some numbers, and that will qualify you for the stimulus check. So if you haven't filed, maybe you just simply file a simple return. After you get your ducks in a row, then you amend your return. But in the interim, you will get the stimulus check. And the good news is there's no clawback. They're not going to ask for money back. The IRS has already said it. If they make a mistake, anything like that, it's your money. So you don't have to worry about it unless you committed some egregious fraud that you don't want to do.
No, don't do that.
They are scrutinizing everything. But easiest thing, file a simple return for either 2018 or 19. And if you're ready to file, just file now because you got some time. I think the window's open until like June 10th. But I would also say file as early as possible. It's just like these SBA loans. They do not have an infinite amount of cash. There's not an open checkbook there.
Let's talk about those SBA loans.
What's that?
Let's talk about the SBA loans.
Sure. So basically you have two different types of loans that are being offered right now. The first one, and the easiest one, by the way, to get is called a PPP, a payroll protection program. And this loan, by the way, takes less than 10 minutes to fill out the application. It's basically based on your 2019 payroll. So if you have a payroll company, go there, get your gross payroll expenses for 2019, divide it by 12. That gives you the average monthly gross monthly payroll expenses. Multiply that by 2.5, and that's your loan amount. Here's the best part about it, Ted. Let's say for easy numbers, your loan amount is $100,000, right? Now, for the next 2 months, 8 weeks from the time you get the money, you use $50,000 to cover payroll. It's 100% forgiven. It's a grant.
Wow.
You're also entitled to use up to 25% of the total loan to cover mortgages, mortgage payments, rent, lease payments, utilities. You could use the money however you want, but if it's used for payroll and mortgages, lease, property expenses, and utilities, it's almost 100% of it's going to be completely forgiven. So it doesn't get any better than that.
It's amazing. So that's for small businesses. Obviously, that's what everybody's freaked out about, among other things. But because the small businesses still want to keep their employees going, they still want to keep their business intact, they have to have that cash flow in order to do it. And they have to figure out how to do it in this new normal that we're experiencing right now where everybody's quarantined.
That's exactly right. The payroll protection program wants small businesses to keep people employed. And look, it's a great decision by the administration to do that. Consumerism and small businesses is what really drives the engine. Those ginormous companies, they're not going anywhere. Right? Let's face it. Fortunately or unfortunately, they make tens of millions of dollars every single year.
Right.
A lot of us as small business owners, we work at a much smaller margin, and we don't have as much of a runway to absorb this crash landing. But the reality is that if you're going to keep your people employed, look, back during Sandy, our headquarters is in Eatontown, New Jersey, right in the Jersey Shore. We lost about 3 weeks, but we chose not to lay anybody off, to keep everybody on the payroll. But during Sandy, it was actually covered under our business owners policy. I had a rider included for business interruption. This pandemic is not covered under insurance. So
that's a great point. That's great. Keep talking, because I think a lot of people think they've got the business interruption, but most of the policies have an exclusion for something basically like this.
Yeah, all of them. Now, I haven't heard of one business or one insurance company saying, we covered, the downturn in revenue, payroll, whatever. I just don't think it exists out there. So fortunately, again, we're getting a bailout is basically what's happening for the small businesses. The payroll protection program is for small businesses with less than 500 employees. Now, anybody, any business, less than 500, more than 500, you could apply for both of these loans. The second loan being offered by the SBA is called an economic injury disaster loan, okay? EIDL, economic injury disaster loan. Now, that is a much more complex filing and application. You basically need a financial audit. They want to know what your operating expenses were, what your P&L looked like, tax returns, personal guarantees. But the way I look at it is you use the PPP loan as a bridge loan. Look, if we can get through the next 2 or 3 months, and you're okay, things start to come back to normal, then you don't need the economic injury loan. But let's say after 8 weeks or 6 weeks, 4 weeks, things don't look like they're recovering as quickly as you think they should or what you need, then you apply for that second loan. But I will tell you, the second one, again, it's personally guaranteed. It's a much more complicated application process. But if you need the money, hey, you might as well take advantage of it. It's up to $2 million, actually, that can be awarded to each small business. And that's a great thing. So
yeah, you want to stay off Netflix long enough to fill out that application. I know it's complicated. I know it's complex, and I think that's a daunting task for a lot of small business owners that might not fit into the PPP parameters for whatever reason, and then they take a look at it. I've seen it. It definitely is a daunting task, or at least it feels that way. But one page at a time, guys. One page at a time. Really go through it. I tell small business owners, they already have the information. You just have to consolidate it in a way that the government's asking you to do. And it might seem a little counterintuitive, but eventually at the end of the day, if you get it done, you have up to $2 million is what they're offering. You won't all get that. I'm not saying that. But I think it's really important for them to not get discouraged because it is a little bit more of an application, I think, than most people are used to filling out.
Yep. And listen, I actually just spoke to Moises from your group, and I know he's involved in a CPA firm, and these lots of CPAs and tax accounting companies are going to offer some doc prep fees. They have a lot of this information already on their small business owners. So it might be a situation where it actually pays someone at this point in time. I know things are rough, but if you want to get this done, and you want to get it done in an expeditious manner, you want it done and over with, let them handle that. Put all the information together. You can focus on what you do best, and hopefully, trying to figure out how you're going to, generate revenue. You're going to adapt to this whole new thing. I mean, I don't have to tell you, Tad, we're looking at a completely, different environment and landscape moving forward. There was a huge paradigm shift when we went from calling people to texting people. Now we're in the Zoom world. No one calls or texts me anymore. I get Zoom calls.
Zoom, baby.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about
I need an avatar, Ted, because I'm tired of shaving, and I'm up here in the mountains. I don't want to shower anymore. This is like crazy.
All right, I've got it. Let me transition to credit, because that was another thing that people were asking about. There's all sorts of stopping the mortgage payment, not having foreclosures, not having evictions. The people were asking about the credit cards, or the or the credit card companies. Are they doing anything as far as making the payments and how that's going to impact? I think people have no idea. So everybody's kind of in this paralyzed mode.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. They want to make a payment, but should they keep money in the bank? If they're unemployed, what should they do? And I think there's just so much out there that is adding to the confusion. Can you try to clear a little bit of it up?
Sure. So here's the best case scenario. The best case scenario is a couple of senators, one being from the great state of Hawaii and another from Ohio, put forth a bill again during this disaster and pandemic. I hope it gets passed as quickly as some of the other relief bills that were proposed. But the Disaster for Workers Credit Act, basically is going to place a moratorium on the reporting of any negative information over the next like 3 or 4 months. That kind of, puts a nice security blanket on everybody. Now it's up to the individual consumer. I am telling you, do not listen to your governor. Do not listen to the president. Don't listen to anybody but your creditor, because they have protections. And we can't just say, oh, nobody needs to pay any of their loans. We would implode, right? So the best case scenario is a deferment, okay? There's a huge difference between a forbearance and a deferment. So let's just talk mortgages. Most of the major banks, big mortgage companies, credit unions, they've all said, we're going to offer some type of relief, right? Some type of payment relief. It's either a forbearance or a deferment. Now, both of them are good, but here's the difference. A forbearance is a finite period of time. Let's use 3 months because that's the most common. You have 3 months that you'll be allowed to skip your mortgage payments. But please know that the interest is accruing, and at the end of that 3 months, all of those payments are due. So you're just kicking the can down the road. You're buying yourself a little time. Maybe the unemployment checks start coming in. Maybe things get back to normal. You find a new job, whatever it may be. But at the end of that forbearance period, you've got to pay the piper. Yeah. A deferment means that they are deferring the payments until the loan matures, you sell the property, or there's a transfer of the note. That is the best case scenario for any type of financial obligation. But either option is being offered by the banks. Now, listen, most often you are not working with the bank that you closed with when you closed your mortgage. They get resold, they're servicers. So you need to contact the people that you're paying on a monthly basis, not necessarily the bank or mortgage company that you closed with. Who are you paying? And you need to reach out to them. And if I were you, I would have them send you their COVID-19 or Corona proposal. Don't listen to, just like happened back in 2006, 7, and 8, these companies are hiring telemarketing people across the country that don't really understand anything. Back then, they were telling everybody, hey, you got to miss a couple mortgage payments if you want to get a modification. So get something in writing from the mortgage company that explains exactly what you're being offered. If you have the opportunity, in my professional opinion, if you have the options, take the deferment, not the forbearance. So most of the mortgage companies, the banks, there's some type of program that's being offered right now. Look, in the state of New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy came out and said, oh, it's 3 months, whatever. It doesn't matter what he says.
Right.
So they can stop the eviction process. They can stop foreclosures for a short period of time because that goes to the county courts. But ultimately, the creditor controls this situation. So the creditor controls whether or not they're going to report the information. The creditor controls whether or not they're going to collect the payment. So contact your creditor. When it comes to car payments, credit cards, they all have different programs, again, that they're offering right now. Discover, Capital One, Citi. And we actually put together, and I'll send you the link, Ted, or people can text in. But we have a Corona survival guide because the information's all over the place.
It's crazy.
But each credit card company has a different program. They all have a program. But again, don't listen to anybody except your creditor because they're the ones that are going to provide you with the program for you, nobody else. So it's really—
How about student loans, Paul?
Student loans, awesome situation. If it's a federal student loans have been deferred until September 30th. So you don't make a payment until September 30th. And when you start making payments again on September 30th, you don't have to pay all the payments that you missed. Those payments are simply going to be put onto the back of that loan. It doesn't mean you don't owe the money. It just means that you're not going to pay them until the loan.
You have to apply for it, or is it automatic?
Federal student loans have automatic deferments. If it's not a federal student loan, then again, you have to contact the original creditor and say, hey, what are my options here? I'd like to apply for a deferment. Again, I can't stress that enough. If you have an option where you want to ask for a deferment.
So the last big topic, I think, on everybody's mind is unemployment. They've changed or added some rules. They have made it accessible to groups that it was not accessible to before.
Yeah.
So, but again, like you said, there's so much information out there. It's very hard to kind of maneuver through it. Can you give us the lowdown?
So basically what they've done is they've added everybody. So if you're an independent contractor, 1099, a self-employed person, everybody can apply for the unemployment insurance. They're all entitled to the additional $600 a week on top of what you were going to get approved for based upon your individual situations. So again, thank God they passed these programs very, very quickly. So it doesn't leave the entrepreneur out in the dust, right? So if you're a self-employed entrepreneur type of person, you can apply for unemployment insurance, and you've never been able to do that before. So take advantage of it. And again, I don't think we're going to run out of money when it comes to unemployment insurance and stuff like that. But if I were you, I would apply as quickly as possible. So you start your benefit program, and they'll never take it back. So you don't want to get in a situation as more and more people start to feel the squeeze. This is what's happening right now. And I talk to people every day. Right now, they're still kind of okay, right? Because they had a couple bucks. Yeah, I don't want to apply for unemployment. It's a headache. It's a nightmare. Okay, that's true right now. But in a month from now or 2 months from now, and again, hopefully this is a short-term problem, and we get out of this quickly sooner than later. But nobody knows. Nobody knows.
So I also had an interesting question earlier too. What if you work 2 jobs and you are still at the one part-time job, but your second part-time job furloughed you or let you go?
So I would apply no matter what and let them determine whether or not or how much you're going to get, because even part-time employees are eligible for unemployment right now. So apply for it and let them figure out whether or not you're going to get or how much money you're going to get.
I'm just curious, since I was an employer for such a long time, are the employers going to get hit with the increased percentage rate on their unemployment that they pay?
That's a great question. I don't even know the answer to that. I would hope not. I would hope there's a provision in the unemployment insurance, because again, you didn't fire them and they didn't quit, right? They had to go out during this, finite period of time under the pandemic. But that's something I'm going to get back to you on that, Ted, because first of all, if it's 1 or 2 people, it doesn't really affect you. It's a
right.
couple of hours a month. But in this situation, when we're talking about masses, it's worth me getting back to you with the answer to that.
Yeah, I just remember thinking, well, I had 4 or 5 offices at once, all these employees, and then every time somebody became unemployed, my rate would creep up a little bit of what I was paying in. And so that the business owner in me just went to that for a minute, because I think that's something I'm going to guess. Of course, there's a million ways to guess it, but I'm glad you're going to research it, because I think a lot of business owners would like to know that. Any parting words of wisdom for them? Anything you want to share that I didn't cover?
Well, I think the most important thing, the message is this: we are still responsible for the loans that we took out, whether they're credit cards, cars, or mortgages. Until there's a law placed or your creditor says you don't have to pay me, pay your bills, right? And if you can't pay your bills, you're still going to be okay. But if you have the means to pay any of your bills, You have to do it, and you have to pay them on time. I hope that the regulators and the legislators and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the FTC, the Federal Housing Authority, I hope they get this right. But we all know that sometimes they don't get it right. So I would not count on the government. Look, they've already provided the stimulus package. We're all getting some checks. You know, don't go buy a jet ski. Pay down your bills and your debt. Get some groceries, whatever you got to do. But until you have something in writing from your original creditor, you are 100%. And I know I'm the bad guy in the room right now, but that's why, you know, they make you go through the application process. So especially the renters, right? Your landlord is going to have to pay the mortgage, the taxes, all of that stuff. So you don't. I hope that the average, you know, person in the United States just doesn't go, I'm just not going to pay my rent, right? Because I don't have to. That's not the case. So you're responsible. You signed a lease. You signed a legal binding document. There is some help and relief on the way, but until you know exactly what those terms and conditions are, just assume you have to pay all your bills on time. I know it sucks, but that's the reality of what we're dealing with.
That's the best thing you can do. If you can, you just should do that, and not just. I remember a lot of people just gave up in 2008. I know it's a challenge, guys, right now, but what Paul's saying is absolutely true. Just continue to pay your bill. You still owe that money in some way, shape, or form, and it's going to eventually catch up to you. So if you can keep on top of it now, rather than try to figure out how to pay a whole bunch of lump sum or get behind that much, it'll be better for you. I want people to know how to reach out to you. How do they reach you?
The easiest thing, if you want a copy of the Corona Survival Guide that we call it, we put one together back when the Equifax data breach happened. But it's a great place to get all this information in one document. Just go to our website, betterqualified.com, or you can text. If you want to send us a one-time text message, text the number 40691, one-time text message 40691, and the message is relief, right? Text 40691, your message is relief. We will send you one text and one text only, and that's the link to the COVID-19 or Corona Survival Guide.
Love it. All right, Paul Oster from Better Qualified. Thank you so much. So much great information. It's nice to have somebody I trust on here to give us that great information, because, man, I can tell you, people really don't know where to go, Paul. So thank you.
You know, back on, even though we're doing it, you know, virtual and satellite, but yeah, I mean, I was bummed out. I had 3 trips down to Florida where I could have come see you, and we had to cancel them all. But
once again, when it all comes back.
Yeah. And until then, folks, stay home and stay safe.
Amen to that. Thank you, Paul. Wow, thank you guys so much.
Thanks,
I'll share all of Paul's contact information again. Reach out to betterqualified.com.